Hello, 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 everyone. Today I wanted to go over lead-based paint disclosures. I know that this is the one document that all of you stress over, I'm sure. So here's what I would like to do is show you where our sample lead-based paint disclosure is located on our dotloop system. So when you log into dotloop, go over to the templates, which look like two pieces of paper, and you're going to go to the left side and click the KW Associate Orientation. Through our orientation package, we have several things that are in here, including the mock lead-based paint. Now, the reason why I wanted to go through this with you today is I recognize that many of the files are missing the lead-based paint altogether, or they are filled out inaccurately. So I believe that it is important for you to know what it looks like so that you can complete it properly, and then you will not be fined in the event that the EPA decides to come through and look at our files. So at any time, the EPA or the Real Estate Commission can actually do an audit on our files, and we are here to help you and to protect you from being fined. So here we go. Just go to the lead-based paint. Here's a sample copy. On the top, again, this is only for houses that were built prior to 1978. If the house was built after 1978, it could be a good practice to just put one in the file with the date of the property in the house when it was built. So that is a good business practice as well. Put the property address in on the line where it's expected. Item number 3, there are 3 places where the seller needs to actually disclose information. So you see Sally Seller and Sam Seller have both initialed those 2 lines in item 3A. They have to check off one of the 2 boxes where it says presence of lead-based paint and or lead-based paint hazards are known or they are not known. So this is asking the seller, do you know if there's lead-based paint in the house? If so, you must check here. If you don't know about any lead-based paint, you check here. Again, this is the seller who needs to check this. Item 3B, again, the seller needs to initial the 2 spaces if there is a husband, wife, or 2 parties on this transaction. The question is records and reports available to the seller. If the seller has had any reports about lead-based paint, he would have to make a disclosure about it. So the first checkbox says seller has no reports or records pertaining to lead-based paint or lead-based hazards in the house. If the seller has reports, he would have to check this box, and it says seller has the following reports or records pertaining to the lead-based paint or hazards in the house. Okay, and this is where the items or reports would be listed. Number 3C, the sellers would also have to initial that they've read this following paragraph. If there is any change in the above information prior to the seller accepting an offer from the purchaser to purchase, the seller will disclose all changes to the purchase prior to accepting the offer. So that is the seller's portion. The seller then will have to sign both parties. If there are more than 2 parties, then you'll have to add their signature placeholders. The listing agent must sign here. Okay, that is the listing side. Now, when you are representing a buyer, you will have to obtain the lead paint disclosure form from the seller side. A couple ways you can do this. You can look at the MLS and see if it is added as a document, or you can call the listing agent yourself. So the buyer must initial all 3 lines here. The buyer's broker, this is the buyer. The purchaser has received copies of all information listed above. If there were information available, he is acknowledging that regardless of whether there is or is not any information, he does need to initial. Item 4B, the purchaser has received a pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. They initial that. You also, as the buyer's agent, can share that document with your buyer through dotloop. It is in the loop. 4C, the buyer needs to initial that he has received a 10-day opportunity to conduct a lead paint inspection, or he waives his opportunity to conduct a risk assessment on the property. That is up to the buyer. The buyer has to check one of those two boxes. Then the buyer must sign, each buyer has to sign this document, and the buyer's agent must also sign. So I hope this dispels any questions that you may have regarding the lead-based paint form. Please be very careful in signing it. Make sure that the sellers and the buyers sign it properly. And if you are working with a buyer and you recognize that the seller side has not filled it out properly, please make sure to alert that listing agent and get that signed properly, because your buyers need to sign a disclosure of whether there is lead paint in the home. So I hope this helps today. Have a great one. Thanks.